everybody. This is Rhonda, and today is Tuesday, July 26th, and we are talking today calls to action again. Um, every day calls to action now, and today's call to action is going to be building on um, what was posted on the Facebook page yesterday around students living in residence, what their rights are, what you can do as a parent, what students can do, because often these are young adults, right? They can make the choice themselves if they so what options do they have available to them, and why is it this way? Some of the confusion that we're seeing in comments and just not on our Facebook page, but kind of out in society in general, are that people really aren't clear on the difference between your entrenched human rights, um, what they really are, what that means, business, what businesses need to adhere to, and so on and so forth. So we're just kind of going to get into that today. So first things first is I really encourage you to scroll down at some point today through our Facebook page and look at the different the two posts that Nicole put up. Um, they have a T-shirt. There's a purpley blue graphic with a T-shirt. One is in French and one is in English. This video will have closed captioning when the live is finished, so that if your language is other than English, you'll be able to bring it in the language of your choice. So I don't know how well that comes in while it's live. Sometimes it works, sometimes it takes a while. This is also being put to YouTube at the same time, so that again, closed captioning there. So let's get right into it. So little couple housekeeping things first though, sorry. Thanks for being here. Please like our Facebook page and follow it and share our content. We don't have the ability to ask people to like and follow our page anymore. That is something that Facebook has changed. So please, when you're on our page, if you haven't taken the time to like and follow it yet, please do so. And even with following, I think you can turn off notifications if you don't want to get binged every time someone makes a comment on something, if you like a post, that kind of stuff. We do want our page to be engaging. We're trying to create content that educates people, as well as lets them know about their rights and gives us actions that we can take as citizens to be informed and involved. So we have on Thursday, this coming Thursday, we have the Canadian doctors, the Canadian expert panel. We are actually going to have them live on Facebook with us. It's not a pre-recorded event. It's going to be them live with us. We're going to be asking them questions. They're going to answer. We're hoping that it's going to bring a new angle to all of this that will sort of help people understand what's going on a bit better than these polarized opinions that we keep seeing over and over again. So, entrenched human rights. In Canada, we have human rights that are the result of a federal structure with a federal rights, provincial rights. These are all entrenched in the sense that they are, let me go up here. There's a really good document that I'm going to link in the comments later. It's a universally embraced principle, and ours are entrenched because they are done through legislation and laws and codes. So there's this notion that human rights flows from an acceptance of natural rights. And yes, there's some generalizations that can be made that way. However, if you're going to file a human rights complaint, or if you're going to ask someone to comply with human rights, or with your right not to discriminate, you need to see, you need to know what your rights really are, and they're not automatically natural. That's unfortunately just the way it flows. So it changes from culture to culture. That's why we're having some differences in Canada as well. We're kind of like a melting pot for all these different cultures. So people are coming here. We're not really great at explaining what rights are in our country. And so we have this whole plethora of these ideas of what you can and cannot do. We've also evolved as a country. And so older people think we have different rights than we do now, because we have our Charter of Rights and Freedoms that were brought in 1982. And those are entrenched again. And again, we have different layers. We have a federal layer, we have a provincial layer. We have we have a Bill of Rights. People aren't aware that the Bill of Rights still exists. Certain phrases or certain sections of it have been revoked because of the charter, but we still have a Bill of Rights here in Canada. So what are our human rights? So we have a Human Rights Act that's a federal act that's in addition to our charter, and it protects people in Canada from discrimination. And that's really what a lot of what comes down to today is about, is discrimination. So when you're employed, when you go to receive services, when you are, go to rent somewhere, all of this comes down to our Human Rights Act, as well as partly in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. So let's deal with the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. The Charter guarantees a broad equity of rights under other fundamental rights, such as the freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, freedom of religion. Some of them apply only to the government and not to private corporations. So, for example, a store doesn't have to, like a business doesn't have to follow the charter. They're not the government. However, they're required by law to comply with any applicable provincial rights. Or provincial, any applicable human rights codes. And every province has a human rights code, and they're all pretty much the same. Businesses and private and companies are legally allowed to require employees, customers, clients, and visitors do certain things. Where that comes into play is they can't refuse you certain things because they want you to, they're trying to force you to comply in a certain way. So they can't discriminate on grounds like race, religion, creed, physical disability, mental disability, those sorts of things. We're starting a whole new, because of what's been happening over the last year and a half, there's a whole new influx of claims around discrimination because of what's happening today. You basically, what it comes down to is you really can't segregate. Everyone's to be treated equally. That's really, if you want to take that 800,000 foot view around human rights in Canada, that's really what it applies to. Everybody is to be treated equally. And so now there's challenges happening. So if you have, the call to action today is, if you know of anybody who is going to be living in residence in a university, take a look at the letter, the documentation that has already been posted on our Facebook page, and send it to them. or get it to them. There's really good information on there and on what they what they have to do, can't do. It basically just comes down to understanding each section and what we need to do. I'm sort of hammering at straws here because it's really, there's so much to cover, and yet at the same time it's really easy. One of the fundamental things in Canada is that we are all treated equally. So that's, and yes, you know what, our governments are not doing that right now, but it's up to us to speak out. If we do nothing, that's giving our consent that what they're doing is okay. If you don't speak out, you're basically saying, you know what, it's a pain in the ass, but it's really not bothering me enough to do anything about it. That's really what it comes down to in Canada. There's a lot of things our government has done that we should have spoken up about a long time ago, but the people, that those generations didn't speak out because it didn't bother them enough. And it didn't bother enough of them enough to speak out in large enough numbers. So that's what we're encouraging people to do, is to speak out. Don't feel like you're going to be penalized or that something's going to happen to you if you speak out. That's not the case at all. If you stay within the parameters of what's legal and what your rights are, you can, if you go into, for example, if I were to go into a store tomorrow and be kicked out because I wasn't complying with so-called, if they asked me for my medical information and I refused to give it, so they refused to provide me service. Well, my medical information is private. It's between me and my doctor or medical facility, and no one else can ask for that information. So if they kick me out for that, do you know the first place I'm going is my Provincial Human Rights Commission. Then I'm going to the Privacy Commissioner. Then I'm going to the Ombudsman, and I'm speaking to a lawyer. That's what people need to do. You may or may not want to get a lawyer involved, but those are things that you need to start doing. You need to start. That's how you fight for your rights. It's not about these, it's these tiny actions that you take that put something on record. If there's enough things on record, it sends red flags everywhere that, hey, we got a problem. We need to do something about this. Everything is a statistic. And if you're not creating a record that becomes part of that statistic, nothing will ever change. That's the only thing our government listens to, are statistics. You also need to contact your MPs, your MLAs, the senators. You need to constantly be contacting the layers of government that are elected and the layers of government that are supposed to be working for us. I know I have the thing that Nicole posted yesterday. I now have it all ready to go to the senators and to all of my MPs, all of the MLAs, all of that, because they may not be aware of this information. A little thing happens in government, and that is they don't actually seek out information on things. Elected officials don't seek out information on things. They have assistants and they have committees that they work on, and that's the information envelope they work inside. They may not be aware at all. And if they are aware, they may not be being a part of it because they don't have enough people contacting them that encourages them to be a part of it. So contact them. We need to get everything counted. We use our voices individually to count as a collective. That's how it works. You can try storming in Canada with people. You can try rallies in Canada with people. We are so spread out and so diverse, you're only going to affect one province. You won't affect all of Canada. The federal government doesn't care. They don't. They really don't care. The only thing that's going to get them to care is statistics. and making sure that there's enough rumble in there to create, how do I put this, to create attention. How do you do that? You start speaking out. You contact your elected officials. You contact your Chamber of Commerce's. You contact. And, we have people chatting in here, and I don't know if it's on YouTube or if it's on Facebook, but the idea that everyone can, all provinces can gather in one spot is absolutely atrocious. I'm sorry, but I know I can't take 2 weeks off to go to Ontario on a whim. My 2 weeks, I just can't. It takes 4 days to get there, 4 days to get back home. I'm sorry, I just can't do that. I'm a single parent and I have a child. So that's just not going to happen. Not everybody can do that. And you need to meet people where they are. And you can't discount what people are doing because they can't be there in person. People have been rallying for a year and a half. And what change has it brought? What change? It's made some of them wealthy. It's made some of them money. It's put food on some of their tables. That's fantastic. But has it really changed anything? It's given the media a lot more to divide us. Screaming no doesn't do anything. What does screaming no do? That's like a toddler. No. Far better off to give a solution. If you're upset about something, find the solution. Find something that the party that you're upset about, find something they can use. That's what these letters are. It's something that the party that you're upset with can use. Some of them are clamoring to find information. Small businesses, a lot of small business owners would love to understand this a bit more so they're not hammered constantly by people coming in and being upset with them. They're not, their role is not to make our lives miserable. That's not what they get up to do every morning. They get up to serve their community and hopefully have their clients and grow their business and all of that. They don't want to shut down. They don't want to shut people out. And those that do, well, they'll niche into an area where they'll have that clientele that only wants that. That's what our country's about. So again, just to bring this back, there's a lot of things that they can't discriminate us. We're in interesting times, and there's a lot of existing precedent that isn't exactly related to this, but can be used for this. So when lawyers say, and when law firms and all of that say, oh, you know what, this isn't something there. Well, you know what, there's a lot of things in our human rights code that never used to be there until people spoke out. Our human rights code never used to have something to do about sexual orientation until people started speaking out because they were being discriminated against en masse, like largely. They spoke out. We need to speak out. We need to be speaking out. Not everybody is comfortable protesting in person. Not everybody is comfortable, possibly going to a protest and being on the news. Not everybody's comfortable with that. So we need to meet people where they are, and where they are is providing them tools to be able to take actions from their own home, to take actions that they can do over and over and over again. That is what this is about. It's not about dividing us any further. It's about each of us working to find common ground with each other again, so that we can work as a whole because let me tell you, this isn't the issue. What's going on today isn't the real issue. The real issue is this happened. The real issue is, why did this happen? How come it was so easy for all of this to take place? How come it was so easy for all of this hatred to be spurred up and strewn up and fanned and flamed? And like, you want to talk about it every time you drive to work and come back from work, on the radio is constant information about new cases, blah 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 blah. Never before in our history has that been a regular news item at 8 and 5. Never before in our history. For a year and a half. And probably no end in sight to it. There's a lot of other things they could be reporting on every day. How many people died in car accidents today? How many people were injured in car accidents? How many people were injured through malpractice? How many people, because that's the third leading cause of death in Canada. How many people were injured through lots of other things? There's just, we're being targeted with information, and so that's what you're hyper focused on. It's like an echo chamber that you can't get out of. And so we need to inform ourselves so that we can act. We need to inform and get involved. Getting involved is, again, knowing your rights. If you feel like your rights are being infringed on, take action, and take action by contacting your human rights board, your labor board, your privacy commissioner, your ombudsman, your union. If you have a labor union, if you work in a union shop or union business, contact your union. And if your union rep won't hear you out, go above their head. There's just so many things that we need to start being assertive about. We aren't assertive in Canada, where we tend to be very passive aggressive. And we really just need to be straight up assertive when it comes to some of this stuff, because assertiveness means consistent action, and we need to be taking consistent action all the time in order to get enough flags out there for the levels that make decisions to notice this, to know that this is not popular, to know what's going on in the echo chamber that's out there in the media isn't what really is popular opinion. That's what we need to do. So don't, and again, if you do nothing, that's giving them consent to that you're okay with everything that's happening. And your actions don't need to be huge and grandiose. An email, if you're not comfortable sending emails, phone. Leave a voicemail. Most places you phone now, you go automatically to voicemail. So leave a voicemail. It's just the majority of us need to start taking these tiny little actions consistently. And that's what will get us to where we need to be, which is having collective rights. This is something we do not have in Canada as citizens. Our political parties have it. Labor unions have it for labor. We as citizens, when it comes to our rights in Canada, do not have collective rights. And this is something we need to have so that we can stop these echo chambers of I don't even know what the right word is. It's propaganda-ish. It's these, people that have an agenda and they've got lots of money behind them. So they make, 100 people seem like 10 million. And really it's 100 people. That's what's happening today. Like, it's not, I don't know how else to put it. Social media is the easiest way to disguise a few people to look like millions. And it all comes down to how much money do you have? That's that's what's happening. We have media companies. 4 media companies control all the media in the whole world. 4. So, if you're a journalist and you want to keep your job, at some point you have to make a decision if to do something that you're not proud of. And unfortunately, there are a lot, and it's not a good thing. There's other people that are just blindly following, and that's fine too. But that's, again, it's what it comes down to in Canada is we've forgotten that we're all equal and that we all have the same rights as each other. No one's rights supersede somebody else's at any level. I just want to make a caveat because someone talked here about there is the only group in Canada that have collective rights are Indigenous people. They have collective rights, but we don't. The Canadians as a whole don't have collective rights. Their collective rights, the Indigenous people's collective rights, come through the certain treaties and certain things that the governments have done, and through the UN. Being Indigenous people, they have the right to self-determination and self-govern. That's a collective right. Canadians don't have that. We have the right to vote in who's going to make decisions for us, so we can self-determine who's going to make decisions for us. But we do not have the right to hold them accountable for anything. We do not have the right to say, hey, wait a second, you said you're going to do this and now you're doing this. How come? We don't, as Canadians, we don't have that collective right. That's pretty much the difference between the two. So as a whole, we're all to be treated equally, but some of us have certain rights over others, and only in certain areas too. It's not a carte blanche type of a thing. So, okay, so today's call to action: if you know of anybody who is going to university or is looking for housing and is running into issues regarding, so, I'm not going to get into it here because it's just like everybody goes crazy. So if people are running into certain issues around discrimination based on what's going on in the world today, there are 2 posts on our Facebook page. One is a French version and one is an English version. And please give it to them. Send it to them. And it has to do with more with your options of what to say should that situation arise. So it's not threatening. It's not saying that it's about how to address that issue when it does come up. And I think a lot of, and that's helpful. That's sometimes more helpful than becoming very, fighting. That's sort of, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Dan has the right idea. The only thing is, please be careful with scripts. You want to, even with our letters, we say it's great to use our letter, but if you want to use your own, that's fine. Use ours as a template. It's because you don't, every time something's cookie cutter, it loses its value, right? So that's why we're changing it up, why we have different calls to action, why we're constantly going to be bringing out new stuff, is because you can't be seen as doing the same thing forever. Otherwise, it loses its weight. And by doing different things that slowly gain momentum, that consistency, that's what we do. not everybody is going to want to phone. Do what you can. That's the thing. Get involved, get informed, and get involved. That's what I'm trying to spur, what we're trying to spur people on to do. Because once we're involved, then we can do a lot of other things. The other thing as well is go to our website. It's in the post at the top. There's a link to our website. Go to our website and sign your convention of consent. That is about our collective rights. That is collective rights for all of us together as a whole in Canada. That is so that we have the right to self-determination and self-governance, so that we can hold those that we elect accountable, so that we, the citizens, will be able to hold referendums. We'll be able to have citizen-led referendums like they do in a few other countries. That's all. It all has to be legislated. It all has to be put into, our Constitution, and we need a constitutional amendment for that. And the government will never amend the Constitution unless it's something in their favor, and this is not in their favor. So we need to do a constitutional amendment that is by the people. Like, the movement needs to be by the people, for the people, with the people. You can't do it by expecting politicians to do it. They just won't. And in some ways they can't. They swear an oath. So it needs to be us that does it. The only other type of politician that could help would be independents. Any people that run as an independent in elections. But again, that's not something that's used very often in Canada. It's something we need to inform and get involved with, because it's there for a reason. It's in our Elections Act for a reason. And it gets us away from a lot of other issues around political parties, but it's there for a reason. And it has that, once someone is there, they're there, and they can do, the same as any other elected official. So, yeah. Yeah. So that's about it for today. Again, hope to see you guys on Thursday evening at 8 p.m. with the doctors, with the Canadian panel, expert panel. And then please like and follow our page, share the website, check out our website. And above all else, thank you. We appreciate all of you so much. Thank you for your donations. It's how we're able to keep this moving along. None of us take any money. We all put our own money in. And it's, it's about, being able to keep this going, keep the momentum going, move this forward. So that's what we're trying to do. And there's just a ton of things that everybody can do. And that's what we're asking is, one little thing consistently. If you get 10 million people doing that, that's a pretty large, consistent movement. And it doesn't need to be the same 10 million. It can be all different people constantly coming in and out. And that's what we need. We need to be people to be informed and involved. Have a great day, everybody. And we'll see you here tomorrow morning. Bye.